Anyway. Yeah, we're just gonna be doing some basic grinding, doing like 10 stars and the other monsters as well. I believe in order to access proof of a hero, we have to do the event quests, or is it the optional quests? I think it's the optional quests. These, we have to do these. Luckily I've done 2 of them already, so it really shouldn't be too bad. And then the rest is just, like Udra. Sorry, Udra. Keep confusing the 2 of them. They have a very similar name. I keep thinking I've got another bald patch right here, but it's like my hair shining. Like, pretty sure I don't have a massive bald patch, but that's just like my hair shining, pretty much. Anyway, I've been very busy this last week, and I'm actually going to be more busy this week. So, which is ironic because I'm actually streaming on time this time. I genuinely think this build, is it this one? This is the build right. I think this is probably the best build that I can make. Surely people have actually managed to figure out the build, like the ultimate builds with Arcveld right now. Surely at this point, it's been like a couple days at this point, so we really should know what the optimal setup is. We didn't. I am just gonna do this quest myself, I think. Probably with Sword and Shield, because I mean... I'm sure you can understand why, but I don't really like fighting new Udra with a flat weapon, with a blunt weapon. That seems like a very bad idea. Seems like a very unfun idea, actually. A monster that's like 90% severable parts, I kind of want to be using a weapon that lets me sever. So we'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, next week I'm gonna be, or this week I'm gonna be pretty busy. I think I've got like something going on pretty much every day. From Monday to potentially, definitely Monday to Friday. With obviously 3 of those being, you know, streaming. And then Tuesday and Thursday I think I'm like visiting people. And then on Saturday, I don't know, there's a chance that I'll be occupied then as well. It's going to be a hefty week for me. I only have hot drinks, not cold drinks. I'm going to have to drink some chill mental bugs. Or grab, some chill shrooms. So who are we facing first? Okay, we're facing Rathalos first. That's that's an acceptable monster to face first. I actually really love Rathalos in this game. I think they finally managed to like properly master Rathalos. He was kind of iffy in World, and in every other game he was like kind of blatantly unfun for... Like any game before World, he was just kind of like annoying. Like, he wasn't particularly difficult, just like really annoying with wind pressure and roars and like all the stuff like that. I'm gonna take this out on purpose. Oh, never mind. I want to get Counter-Strike active. Where's this temporary wound always at? On Rathalos, it's in the, Rathian, it's in the mouth, so I kind of just assume. Also, I can't really see. With all the red particle effects going on in their mouth and like stuff like that, it's like kind of impossible to see where the temporary wound is on a lot of monsters. Especially if it is something like Rathalos, Rathian, or like a Jarakan. Damn. Oh, wow, that's a lot of fucking damage. Well, is our Counter-Strike active now? Yeah, no, I think they have actually just mastered Rathalos now in the games. Because after that, it's after that, I figured. The, in any game that came before World, it was mostly just annoying. Not very difficult, just kind of an irritating fight. That's how a lot of the old fights in the old games were actually. It was very much like, instead of being genuinely difficult, they just kind of like tested your patience, if anything. Like, Unknown in Frontier is like really fucking annoying. Also because you can't actually negate any of the things that make him annoying. Like the wind pressure or the roaring, stuff like that. A lot of the old games are kind of like that, where it's just like you get roared and then it's like wind pressure because they landed, and then like you get roared again, and then like half the fight you spend basically being stunned, unable to do anything. It's just kind of annoying. In the modern games, you spend basically no time being stunned. You have like almost full control of your character the whole time, which is very nice, very fun. Because it means I actually feel like I have an impact on whether I succeed or not. And not like in Frontier, where like half the hits I take are because the monster decided to roar, and then follow that up with another like really big attack. That then okay, I guess I have to heal, and then I mean obviously the like global solution for that is, you know, you just don't get hit by the roar, but like not always possible. Especially since roars are like omnidirectional. So got my mic too high, I think. In World, Rathalos was like a lot better because wind pressure was significantly reduced, and roaring. I mean, roaring still like comboed into a monster attack very often. It was still much like that, where you would get roared, and then the monster would just do some like charging or like annoying attack that would guarantee you get hit. Oh, fuck. So, I'm not exactly the best at doing the wake up on Sword and Shield. But I hit it, okay. I hit it. Especially in World, Rathalos had a very distinct, deliberate combo, where he would roar and then do that move he just did. The one where he like blasts the ground and starts flying. That was like the combo that he would do pretty much every single hunt every 3 minutes or so. Very annoying. But I mean, eventually that's one you kind of just have to accept is a part of Rathalos' kit and world, and you just have to kind of deal with it. You'll be like, oh, if I don't dodge this roar, I'm getting like giga screwed. I'm getting blasted into the next week, you know? In Rise, he was too easy. But that is kind of a constant theme with Rise. It's like very easy across the board. I mean, a lot of the monsters are fun. I would say Rathalos was more fun in Wilds, or sorry, in Rise. I think it was more fun then. It was a bit easy. Because, you know, he would stick close to the ground, and then he would like down very often, and he had more interesting attacks as well. He was on the ground more often than not, which is a bit unfortunate. It kind of takes away a bit of his like King of the Skies aspect of him. So I think in Wilds especially, they have actually managed to fully master him and like make him he's a genuinely threatening monster with like a lot of damage and a lot of like like a really big nice moveset to work with as well, because they've kept taking the golds and silvers and they've been putting them into the base kit of monsters, which I know some people aren't a big fan of. By the way, I have fought a Jarrakan 10 times, so if anything, this is going to be actually more difficult than potentially even the Udra for me, because I don't fight a Jarrakan that much. You don't really get much of a motivation to. I'm gonna have to do damage here instead of heal. Oh, never mind, the cat's gonna heal me anyway and make me lose resentment. Oh, that's the grab. Yeah, no, I noticed that like last second. Yeah, I would say this is among the least known of the monsters in this game for me. You just don't really like have a reason to fight them. Really good music though, I love them. I can't wait for Master Rank where like, oh god. Does he normally do all that, like, explosion shit? I feel like he never used to do this. I'm actually gonna Superman dive this instead of blocking it. It does too much chip damage to warrant it. I would have to heal, so it's functionally the same as getting hit. Yeah, no, I feel in this game, they really kind of mastered Rathalos. Because he has the aspect where, like, he's an actually difficult fight with, like, a really difficult moveset. He's very threatening. On top of that, he also... Yeah. On top of that, he also actually flies a lot of the time as well. He doesn't... He, like, half the time he spends in the air, he spends close to you, enough for you to hit his shins and, like, try and get the down that you can get on him. That's another thing they added, which I really like, is the ability to down him if you do enough damage to him when he's in the air. That, like, gives you an incentive to hit him when he's in the air, instead of just being like, well, I'm going to be attacking his shins the whole time, so it's, like, the worst part ever. It's, like, not worth attacking, barely. But no, now in this game, it's like, okay, well, if you hit his shins enough, he will, you know, end up getting knocked down and go to the ground. And then you get to actually hit something that's not dog shit. I just barely pressed block there, so I was like a little bit late. Just the grab. Yeah, there's another. I think a lot of aspects. Also, him getting his own theme in this game as well is very beneficial, which is like the Monster Hunter 1 combat theme. I believe it is. Not technically his theme, but I'm glad they've like retroactively made that theme his, even though it's like very, very like confusing for someone who's fought a lot of Fatalis in World. Considering he has the exact same theme as Rathalos now, which is like kind of scary. At least scary at first, because you're like, oh my god, this is Fatalis' theme. Yeah, no, the ability to like down him when he's in the air, it's very fun, it's very nice. Like probably a really good addition. Half the time he spends in the air, he spends it close to you, and the other half he spends far away from you, where you couldn't even hit him even if you wanted to, which I think is a good way of balancing it. Before, like in World, he would spend like all the time, almost all of his time he would spend away from you. And then if he didn't, the only part you were hitting was like literally just his toes, and it was like the least fun fight ever. Oh, I wanted to actually get that one.
Looks like it's moving to a new area.
Aside from that, oh, actually, another aspect I want to talk about when it comes to Rathalos, something they also kind of nailed, is the... This is a big Rathian, by the way. I'm actually going to check. Not that big, apparently. I really like that Rathalos is actually more threatening than Guardian Rathalos. Like, Rathalos comes kind of at the end of high rank, when obviously Guardian Rathalos comes at like 70% of the way through low rank.
On my way there.
My microphone's annoying me. I don't know why. But I really enjoy that Rathalos in this game. The base version is scarier than Guardian Rathalos because it really like reinforces the idea that Rathalos is the optimal form of this monster. That like any subversion from the original format is worse. Fuck, forgot about that. Just the grab. I'm not gonna get out of this one. Oh, barely. Yeah, it just gives the idea that like Rathalos can be improved. So any deviation is just worse. So the supposed like beefed up Guardian version of Rathalos is actually still with me? Wow. Yeah, the supposed beefed up version that would like is quote unquote improved is actually much easier because it's just like deviating away from perfection in a sense. Like you can't get more perfect than perfect. It really gives Rathalos like a really nice presence in this game that he doesn't have in the other games. Like, he was certainly fun in the previous games, but both the fight and the surrounding concepts around him, like the extra music, the variant that's just kind of worse than him, naturally. Like, it gives like such a nice presentation of Rathalos in this game, which I feel is probably the best he's ever been. Because he's very fun, and he's very, he has a big presence, a big intimidation value. I'm wondering what to do about this new Udra right here. I mean, obviously I'm gonna kill it, but like I'm gonna.
Expertly done.
Am I down plotting it right now?
All right. Perfectly blundered.
I'm out of max potions? I've not eaten... Yo. I've not eaten 7 max potions this time. Absolutely not. I also have not eaten 9 mega potions. I thought I restocked. Am I stupid? Or did I not restock? They released a bunch of concept art of the Udra recently, which showed off that the blue that you see in their tendrils, inside their tentacles, is actually is effectively eyes. I mean, we can already have like guessed that already, based on the fact that they use them and like they point them in your direction, and you literally see them like staring at you when he pulls them out. So like, we could have guessed, but they gave us like actual anatomy of like showing the nerves going from the end of the tentacles up to their brain.
Ooh, I think we can mine this.
My neck has been quite stiff recently. I'm gonna have to start going swimming again pretty soon in order to fix that. Is there any... No chill mantle bugs. There's a bigger mantle bug, but I'm not interested in grabbing that one. I think something I actually want to see for Master Rank is instead of just giving new Udra a new move and just calling it a day for Master Rank, I actually think that they should make it so he can do multiple attacks at once. Really lean into the fact that he's an omnidirectional octopus that can be in different places and he has 8 eyes. I think that would be a really neat thing to do. Make it so that, like, he can attack multiple players at once, so that he becomes like an ultimate, like, anti-multiplayer monster, where, you know, just attacking 2 people at once with two different attacks. So, like, he does this on me, and then while he's doing this, I might die to chip. Yeah, while he's doing all that to me, make it so that his back legs can, or the ones behind him, the back tentacles, that they can actually just attack someone else as well. Like, while he's doing this right now, his tentacles in the back, they start wailing at the players that are behind him. I think that would be a very neat thing to do. It's a lot of work for something that's exclusively going to be presented in multiplayer, for the most part. I'm getting a little...
I got it covered.
That's weird.
We'll have to carve it later.
Really? Already?
Shields inbound.
Okay. I lost my train of thought there. I was so confused on why they got, like, broken then. Because I've not been attacking that arm very much. I'm so fucking, like, stunned. I don't know what I was talking about now. Oh, I'm gonna get smacked. Either way, though, I think that would be something neat to do. Just make it so he can do multiple moves at once. Really let him multitask. Show the experience of this, the experience of this new Udra by just, like, going like, okay, it can literally do multiple, like, handle multiple hunters or multiple threats at once.
Do your thing, Plunderer.
But I know they're probably not going to do that. They're probably just going to give it a new... Obviously, they're going to give it a new move, or a couple new moves, and damage is going to get bumped, and health is going to get bumped, and that's kind of it. I do absolutely... I'm going to preface this by saying I do absolutely love Monster Hunter, obviously. I mean, I've spent... It's literally my #1 game franchise of all time. And I play it for... I've played it for like 3,000 hours at this point, more. But, there's something I do want to see them do in Monster Hunter that they haven't done. Or, well, that they aren't doing necessarily. It's more like a general concept rather than like an actual specific thing. I want them to be bolder. I want them to do more novel things. Thought I blocked that. One example would be... Everything is like, I mean, everything is phenomenal, but everything is like typically very, by the book. Very expected, very like, what you would expect it to be. So for example, if they brought Alatreon back into this game, Alatreon would just be in his own arena again, like he was in Iceborne, where he was in a, in Safijiva's arena. They would just do that again. You know, like, Alatreon would come back, and then there'd be some new area, like the arena, that's entirely exclusive to where they are. But I think I would like to see more interesting things done with the idea of locales, I guess, or like how to use those monsters in locales. For example, using Alatreon again, what if instead Alatreon was just a field monster that came, instead of being like Tsuchiya, which is in their own region, they're just like every other monster, and they just randomly appear in some high-profile regions. Like, for example, you get a like Fire Alatreon appearing during the oil spring in the oil basin. Maybe the Frost one appears in the Ashard Cliffs. Like, he can just appear almost anywhere, but his element changes depending on where he appears. Instead of just condensing him to one specific arena and making him this big, like, event boss, Instead, they could make him a part of the ecosystem where he just comes in at random on specific locations and in different elements. There's another more notable example that I used to describe this, which is Achtal. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I think it's something like that. It's the final boss of Monster Hunter 4, I believe. That's not Gog's Mazius, that's the expansion, I think. But yeah, Achtal, which is a praying mantis monster. It was obviously in its own arena because it's the final boss, and it has like a unique gimmick where after a certain amount of health is done and it's lost a lot of health, and it's like halfway or 75%, it actually retreats into its nest in the middle of the arena. And its nest is actually a giant mech that it has created and that it controls using the silk from its obviously abdomen and stuff like that. So it literally puppeteers around a giant mechanical monster that you have to attack the legs at to break the silk and stuff like that, and that you eventually climb up on top of it to go back and attack Achtal again himself. Obviously he goes back down onto the ground once you manage to topple the giant mech. And like Alatreon as the example, if they were to bring Achtal back, they would just give him his own arena again, which presented his mech there, you know, entirely in a controlled environment, which is very typical of Monster Hunter. Very standard. But instead, I would like to see them be bolder, be more interesting, do more cool things, like put Achtal into the ecosystem. Instead of having their own bespoke arena where their mech stays put and you only fight them in there, instead, what if they rode in to the locale on their mech? They rode in, or they came in from the Windward Plains in this map, from the dune area. They literally walk their mech through into the locale.
Take a quick break.
So they can appear like any other random monster. They're just a part of the ecosystem that comes in. They walk around with their mech, they get and like maybe they park their mech right outside or right where the dunes begin, around where the oasis is in the Windward Plains. And they come out of their mech and they just start going around. They start wandering around the map normally like a normal monster. And and if you deal enough damage to them, they then retreat back into their mech where they fight you from their mech. Makes it a very organic, natural fight in the environment that makes them feel grounded instead of just being like, oh, this monster appears exclusively here and only here, and it doesn't appear anywhere else. And like you can again do the similar thing to other maps, like the oil. Well, the oil wall basin is maybe a bit too cramped. If you want it to be really bold, actually, you could make it so that there's multiple different mechs, like Achtal. Obviously, as a species, they're not creating the same mech every time. It's like a bird's nest, effectively. They're just creating, like, different nests made out of junk that they find. So it's not going to be the same every time. If you wanted to go really overboard, you could instead make them have custom mechs depending on the region that they come in. So a giant walking one, because the Windward Plains is so open, would make sense, like the one they had in Monster Hunter 4. Or when he comes to the oil well basin, it's a much sleeker lizard design that's smaller, flatter, can get into all the weird nooks and crannies in this place.
Don't mind if I do.
They park it somewhere, and again, they just get out, wander around the map like a normal monster. You damage them enough, they go back to their mech, they fight in their mech. It's a different mech from the one in the Windward Plains, because obviously it kind of has to be. The other one's not going to fit in here. And then, of course, you have the Ashford Cliffs, which doesn't even, well, it's a bit more open. It's a bit more like like boxes rather than like tubes in the oil well basin. But once again, it has a slightly different design to accommodate the Ice Shard Cliffs. And then, of course, you have the other region, which is like the ruins of Wyveria. It's a very open but spirally area. It could have like, instead of being like a walking mech, it could be something I'm not sure what would fit more of that type of look or that type of structure, but you kind of get my idea at this point where, and this is also not even the main idea I'm talking about. This is me expanding on something that could be cool that they definitely would not do, but it's too risky. It's too much, you know. It's too it's leading too far into a very specific fight and a very specific aspect of the game that most games would like dedicate an entire like quarter of the game to. But the general, like pulling it back a bit, the general idea being that Achtal is just a part of the map, or just a part of the game normally, and will ride in on their mech on a locale like the Windward Plains, and then they just wander around, deal enough damage, they go back to their mech, you fight their mech, get them out of their mech, you kill them. Something like that would be so much more interesting, would be so much cooler than just having him be in his own exclusive arena where he never appears anywhere else, never does any other like type of combat. It's the one mech, it's in that one area. Instead of that, integrate them into the world more. Like, do riskier things, be bolder, be more interesting, do cooler things with these monsters. With Alatreon, again, comes into any region and his element represents that region. Just makes sense. Instead of having his own bespoke arena where he starts in one or another. But it's very clear that they're not going to go down that route.
I think these might be tracks.
Because they're obviously still doing it quite heavily in Wilds with the existence of Joshia, and to an extent, what is the other monster that has its own locale in this game? Oh, Jindahad. You know, they're still doing the same thing with Jindahad and Zoshia, so clearly they're gonna keep doing that instead of being like, because Zoshia could fit just fine in Ruins of Warveria in some specific places. For example, the obviously you wouldn't have the big spectacle fire stuff and like the whole like him coating the whole ground, but like they're then designing the fight to fit the small region that it's in very deliberately, when I think they could start designing those fights to instead be more fluid and based on the fact that they're just going to be in the wild normally, just in the maps somewhere. It's obviously a difference in designing the monster's moveset, and like if you know the locale they're going to be in, you can make moves specifically for that area. It's swings and roundabouts. It's like you're trading one thing for another. But I think overall, that's what I want to see Monster Hunter do more past this point. Like that's what I want to see more of, is them being bolder, them doing more interesting things with the monsters that they have. Like, it's one thing to just keep adding monsters and having another Monster Hunter game and it's just the same thing again and again. Granted, it's phenomenal. They make incredible games every single time, but they don't take very many risks in how that they present these monsters in the wild. World was the biggest risk they took in a long time. Wilds is arguably a step back from World, with, you know, the removal of the tracking system and all that, and like World was obviously the biggest jump that they made. But I want to see them do riskier things. Stop making bespoke arenas for monsters unless you absolutely have to. Obviously, it's like a big, massive story quest you're only meant to hunt once, like Zoshia, technically. Ish. But just integrate them into the world more. Make them do more interesting things. Make Achtal come out into a map naturally with their mech and just wander around, and then they go back to it and you fight it there. Like, make it a very natural part of the ecosystem where you can just be fighting another monster like Doshiguma, and then Achtal roams in suddenly and you're like, oh I need to go and fight them. Like, that's so cool. That would be like making it all flow together naturally instead of being like in the hub, pick a quest, in the hub, pick a quest. It, like, instead of being very structured and formulaic, make it more, if you want to go with this like very flowy, like very natural ecosystem driven game, pull in the bigger monsters into those ecosystems instead of just making bespoke arenas. I think that would be one of the coolest things that they could do, and it's something I want to see them do. Just, again, be riskier. Do bigger things, have like loftier ideas. Don't just settle for making a phenomenal fight that goes by the books. Make a phenomenal fight that breaks the conventions of the traditional game. I think that is something I want to see them do a lot more. I think that'd be so cool. So cool. If I'm gonna, again, retract a bit more to something I was saying before. A step above what I said about Actwell just being a natural monster is, again, having them have multiple mechs depending on the region that they come in. It would be effectively creating 5+ fights, 5 monsters by itself, which is a colossal undertaking. That's dedicating 5 monsters worth to a single monster is a big thing. That's like a lot of work. I would understand that. But just imagine how cool that would be. That Actal comes into a different region with a different mech. Every region has a different version. That's fundamentally a different fight. Sure, you can, like, Actal was going to be pretty much the same every region. The actual praying mantis version of the monster, obviously, would be the same. But when they go back to their mech, it's a different fight every time. It's a different way to disable them, a different way to pull them out again. And so functionally, you're recycling one monster while giving a lot of variance to them. Like, you're making it very, very dynamic. Not very repetitive. It means that if you're fighting Actal, you can fight Actal 100 times and he probably won't get very boring. Because of the amount of variance in their fight. But again, that would be a step above what I'm already asking, which is just making Actal a natural monster that appears. I think asking for even that is a bit of a stretch because they don't seem interested in doing that. They seem interested in keeping the bespoke arenas.
Hard at work.
Yeah, I just got proof of a hero, I'm pretty sure. Special environment quests.
Oh, there's a quest that's only available right now.
Oh no, yeah, that's proof of a hero right there. Oh my god. I mean, obviously I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to wait for Stormy and the others to do that one. Yeah, no. But big, overarching summarization. Be riskier. I want them to be riskier. Do bolder things. Do more involved things. Don't just do the basics. It's one thing to do the basics and do them phenomenally. They're very good at that. Incredibly good. I think it's time to have loftier expectations. I think it's time to be more interesting. Like, you've already gotten to a point in making Monster Hunter to where you're making incredible, phenomenal, unbelievable fights. I think you've gotten it down so consistently at this point that you can start to push the boundary even further. Think bigger, you know? That's like the one way that I see. That's the one, like, major way I would want it done in Wilds, specifically because of the way that they're doing it, where it's like also, this kind of goes on to one of my only criticisms of World, actually, where, sorry, not World, Wilds, that the whole maps like being interconnected thing is very cool, but it is not. It's not this. They didn't do it well, unfortunately. Like, they kept like drumming up about how it's like a constantly like connected world, like interspliced between each other, and you can just walk from, like, logically speaking, you can genuinely, it's very cool, walk from or use your secret and go from ruins of Bavaria all the way down to the Windward Plains without seeing a single loading screen, which is very cool if that A, made sense to do, and B, even functioned in multiplayer, which it doesn't. Which is my biggest gripe with this game. One of my biggest gripes with this game is the fact that they came up short when it comes to the whole open world aspect. The maps are great, but they didn't lean into it. They just kind of gave up halfway, which is unfortunate because like it was one of the coolest aspects that I thought would be really fun. Is I wanted to be with my friends. We're in the Windward Plains. We're fighting a Doshiguma, and then I look on the map. Oh, there's a new Udra in the Oil Well Basin. Let's go over there right now. Let's just go on the map, go on our secret, and go all the way over to the Oil Well Basin. Cool. That would be so cool. You can't do that. You just can't do that. It's impossible. You can be in an environment like with all your friends, but the second you try and go down any of those routes that let you go to a different region, like you can't go to the Scarlet Forest if you're in the Windward Plains, if you're in multiplayer, because the game just doesn't allow you. For some arbitrary reason, the game does not allow you to do that. Which is very weird. It's like puzzling. Because I thought that would be such... That was one of the things I was really hoping for the most. I was like, oh, it's going to be so cool being able to go from one region to the next, finding a monster in another region, and then wanting to go and fight them instead. And just, like, traversing the locale completely seamlessly. Like, literally, we can just hop onto Monster Hunter, get in an environment link, or get into each other's world, and just hunt for 5 to 6 hours straight. No loading screens, no nothing. We just wander around, hunting whatever we want. And you can't do that. You can kind of do it with Environment Link, but only in one region. Once you've hunted that region to extinction, that's it. You know? I think it's such a disappointing aspect that unfortunately they just did not lean into. Obviously, my actual biggest criticism of this game, the unfortunately moldy patch on an otherwise perfect Monster Hunter, is the fact that they did not fucking listen to the criticisms everyone had on Monster Hunter World when it came to cutscenes. They listened a little bit, but again, like the environment link that I was mentioning, they took a half measure and didn't go all the way in. They didn't take the criticism to heart, which is very disappointing. It was obscenely disappointing when this game came out, and you could not join your friend, go on a story quest, watch the cutscene together, hunt the monster, and repeat. You could not do that in this game, nor could you do it in World, and it was one of the most frustrating, most awful aspects of World that they didn't address in this game. It was so disappointing. Because you again, in this game, you can't, in World, you all had to see the cutscene, back out of the quest, load into the quest again, after you'd seen the cutscene, in order to actually fight with the hunt together. It was frustrating, it was so annoying, it was genuinely the most talked about thing, the most talked about flaw on World for years. In fact, it was still even complained about, as soon as Wilds was coming out. It was, the number one thing people were concerned about. And they were like, no, don't worry, it's fine. We fixed it, we made it better. We've made it so that, the issues with World, they're gone. Don't worry about it. It was not the case in this game. They did not fix it. You still have to see a cutscene, and then can you play in multiplayer. You still have to go in, see the cutscene, back out, go back in, then do the hunt. The exact same thing as World. It was incredibly disappointing. Incredibly disappointing. They did not listen. Sure, you can skip cutscenes now. That wasn't the issue. Sure, the cutscenes kind of sucked ass in World. There's a reason people wanted to skip them, because they meant nothing, they did nothing, and they were just not very good. In Wilds, at the very least in Wilds, the cutscenes are very good. They're so much more confident in their presentation in this game, and the story they tell is much more engaging than the one in Worlds. Sure. And you can skip them now. That is nice. So if you're doing a repeat playthrough, you can just skip them and move on. That's good. That wasn't the issue with World. The issue wasn't that we couldn't skip the cutscenes. The issue was the fact that we couldn't play them in multiplayer. That was the issue. And that was the most talked about issue. It was like literally the biggest splotch on World. And they didn't fix it in Wilds, which I think is very disappointing. It's so weird. I'm just like, I was baffled when this game came out. I was like, really? We're still doing this. 8 years later, we're still doing this after the World got completely slammed for this big flaw. It should be seamless to play multiplayer. I should be able to log on to the game, go into the game, click join friend, and done. It should be done. Suddenly, we're playing through the entire story mode completely fine. No hitches, no issues, no interruptions, nothing like that. If we're moving to a different locale or something, we can just put a loading screen there or something. I don't know. But don't separate us. Let us just go in, join friend, done. That's it. That's all it needs to be. But no, you can't do that in this game. You couldn't do it in World, and you can't do it in this game either. There's so many hoops behind joining friends in this game, to the point that we abandoned the linking system entirely. I just made a squad lobby for Waddicker, and then we just join the squad lobby and join off of each other's lobby quests. Because it's the easiest way of doing things. We don't participate in environment links because we have to, 1, put ourselves into a link party, and then B, invite everyone to the environment link. They have to join, and then there's like 3 extra steps than there should be when actually just be able to click join. TLDR. I think it sounds like I'm getting really ruffled by this, and I am admittedly very ruffled by the fact that they just didn't fix the core issue of World. Don't get me wrong. But that doesn't stop Wilds from being easily my favorite Monster Hunter game of all time. Easily, this is the best one by a landslide, by a long shot. It's not even close. Already, I'm enjoying this game considerably in high rank. Arguably to almost the same amount I was enjoying Master Rank in Worlds. Granted, World does leg up over this game when you take the expansion into account, with Safi Jiva, Alectrion, Fatalis, the Guiding Lands, Raging Brachydios, Frostfang, like everything that was in the endgame. Those fights were so good, so fun, so incredible. The grind was really, really fun. And I would say Wilds is about 75% of all of Iceborne in terms of enjoyment. It is not better than Iceborne, but it is way better than the base game. Way better than the base game of World already. It's not even close. Which makes me so excited for the expansion, because it means the expansion is just going to be unbelievable. The expansion is going to be beyond incredible. Already Wilds I would consider my favorite Monster Hunter game, because I know for a fact the expansion is just going to be better. The expansion is going to already improve on what is already arguably this is easily the best base game Monster Hunter. Best base game, easily. Better than World, better than base game Rise, better than base game Frontier, better than base game GU. Like, this is easily just the best one, in my opinion. When you take the expansion into account, obviously, Iceborne is above this. I love Iceborne more than this. I think Iceborne is great, phenomenal. But that just makes the idea of Wilds getting an expansion of its own, obviously, so much sweeter, because if this is how good the base game is, imagine the expansion. Like, it's not even going to be a contest. I'm not worried. I'm literally not worried about how the expansions are going to be, about where this game is going to lie in a year or another 2 years, where this game is going to sit on the quote-unquote rankings, because I know for a fact this is already going to be at the top. I know for a fact that the best Monster Hunter experience I'm ever going to have is going to be probably in this DLC. They would have to fumble it really hard for me to be able to still choose Iceborne. They would have to fumble it pretty damn hard, which they've never done before. They've never flopped that hard, that catastrophically. Sure, They make some stinkers every now and then. I would argue Gogs Mazios is a bit of a stinker. Gogs Mazios is unfortunately a fight that I just do not really enjoy in this game. I do it for the resources, but I'm not doing it because I have fun with the monster. When almost every other monster in this game I will hunt, not because I need the resources, but because I find it fun. Gogs Mazios I hunt because I have to, and not because I enjoy it, because I ultimately don't. I think he's just kind of too much of a stinker. Too much of a scripted fight. Too much, like... Too much diversion from the norm. And not in a nice, fun, bolder way like I was wanting. Like when I say I want them to be riskier, I want them... When I said I want them to be riskier, do bolder ideas, that isn't... Make something different than the normal Monster Hunter. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for... an expansion of the core formula of Monster Hunter. Tie everything more intricately into the base game of Monster Hunter. Don't reinvent the wheel. You know? Don't create a third phase where half the fight you spend shooting at them like it's some sort of first-person shooter, and you don't get to actually interact with the monster almost at all, which is Gogs Mazios. Don't do something like that. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking to not hunt the monster in Monster Hunter properly. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking for is add more intricate things to hunting to emphasize hunting. Make it so that Gogs Mazios can appear in the world map and you can fight him like a normal monster. Instead of like bespoking him to a specific arena. Make it so the same with other monsters like Alatreon, you know, Arctal, like I mentioned. Do something like that where you enhance the existing core of Monster Hunter rather than trying to reinvent it and make it different so that it's novel for a little bit. People aren't asking for that. It's so clear that people are just not really asking for that. Every single time they've tried to do something like that, most of the time it's not been met with like good rapport. Zora Magdaros is another example of reinventing the wheel, where you don't actually fight the monster, you just shoot cannons at him and like climb him around and hit his like rocks a whole bunch. No one liked that fight. Literally almost no one enjoys that fight. It is rare to find someone who actually enjoys that fight, because it's not good and it's awful. You know? That's the type of reinventing the wheel that we don't need. What we do need is Monster Hunter, the core, hunting the monster with your weapon in a locale, in the environment, and you just enhance that, make it more interesting, do bolder things with that, make bolder ideas, and that's like the prime example of what I'm asking for. Am I gonna end up doing all the event quests? Sorry, the optional quests? I don't know.
Of course. Come back.
Let's actually start playing the game now instead of just talking. I run my mouth a bit too much. Either way. At this point, you know what I'm asking. You know what I'm talking about. I think I've sufficiently divulged my opinion enough. Yeah, and I think Monster Hunter could do with a little more. They've gotten very, very consistent. Very consistent at making like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 fights. Very consistent. To the point where I would argue now it's time to start being bolder. Now it's time to start doing more. You've got the formula, you've got the core, you've got, you know what you're doing. Time to start being really bold. More aspects like what I talked about, I would enjoy, not exclusively just the one I mentioned, which was, obviously not having bespoke arenas and just putting them into the environment, but doing more things. I want to see them expanding on the tracking system. I know it wasn't to everyone's tastes, but it was an aspect of World that I personally actually really enjoyed because it further enhanced the hunting aspect. I feel like it was a system that was a bit half-baked in World. It was a very good, solid base starting point for a system that, if they had adapted and actually improved instead of abandoning, could have been really damn cool. That's another one of those things. It's like they were very bold with that, and they, I think, hit the nail on the head pretty hard. I think they made a very, very good tracking system for, like, from going from nothing to World's tracking was very damn good. It was obviously not perfect, and it was like, but it was very damn close. I think it was very, very good, actually. Oh damn. That actually killed me. But I kind of wish that instead of just getting rid of it for Wilds, instead they leaned into it more and they enhanced it with, like, taking the criticisms that people had with it into account and making it more interesting and making it more novel, making it like expanding on an already existing mechanic that they'd managed to pull in quite successfully already. I really enjoyed the tracking system in World because it really incentivized you to both learn the map and genuinely learn the paths of the monsters and what they took. Obviously I've fought monsters in Wilds at this point enough to kind of understand where they go and where they're going to be and where they're going to path around. I can tell you roughly where Doshagumas are going to go and where their paths would be. So if you did make it so that I couldn't see them on the map, I probably could find them within about a minute or two. Obviously I'm at that stage, but I have, like, what is it, 350, 400 hours in this game? So it's kind of to be expected at this point. I couldn't tell you where Waddicker goes. I can maybe, like, luckily find him just, like, roaming around an area that I do think I can consistently see him in. But I couldn't tell you their paths. I couldn't tell you where they end up, where they go, where they start. And where they eat, where they, you know, sleep, where their nest is. Well, I can tell you where their nest is, obviously, because it's pretty key part of that fight. But you know what I mean? If it's not a monster I've fought for hundreds of hours at this point, then chances are I'm not going to have much of a clue of where they go. And that's primarily because, A, the Sacred obviously just brings you right towards the monster. You can literally hold up on the D-pad, or press up on the D-pad, and then go and make yourself a sandwich, and then you'll be at the monster in time before you're finished. You know? You don't need to know the map. You don't need to be looking at the environment around you in this game. You can just let the Sacred do all the work. Which is an issue of its own. And one of the, like, valid criticisms I think people can have on this game is the fact that the maps just do not matter that much in the grand scheme of things. The maps are, in my opinion, considerably better than World's maps. I mean, World's maps obviously have a lot of charm to them, and I enjoy them, like the Coral Highlands and the Rotten Vale. I really enjoy those maps. But anything that was coexisting in this game, like the desert region in this game, is considerably better than the one in World, in my opinion. I think this region is so much better than the one in World. I really enjoyed the Scarlet Forest. Ancient Forest has a lot of charm to it, which I think is mostly just rose-tinted glass. I think it's nostalgic talking. If I said I preferred it. So I think, personally in my opinion, I think the Scarlet Forest is overall just, like, a more interesting map. Visually, during the Plenty, it looks a lot better than the Ancient Forest, but during any other region, it doesn't look that much better.
Get out of there!
I mean, overall, I think I would say I preferred... I've mentioned it as well, I think I prefer World's take on the art style, where it's more, It's much more colorful. It's like an actually high def attempt at making the old Monster Hunter art style modernized, and they were succeeded very well. And in this game, this is much more designed from the ground to be realistic looking. It's as if Monster Hunter World was they took GU and we're like, okay, how do we translate this into being realistic and more high definition for a modern audience and a modern console? And then in Wilds, they instead used World as the base, where it's like, okay, how do we translate this into an even more artistically or an even more graphically intensive, prettier looking game, arguably. They started from a different point or a different reference point. When I think I preferred the World interpretation. Not to say that this game isn't pretty, because this game is gorgeous in a lot of places. I think I prefer the style of World a little bit more than I do in this game. I think more color could be had in this game, because this game ends up looking a bit too much like a gray sludge a lot of the time, especially during the Ice Shard Cliffs when you're fighting like Gormagala, especially during the Windward Plains, during the Inclemency. This game can tend to look a bit too gray, a bit too dull, a bit too washed out, which is unfortunate. But yeah, no, I want to see them expand on tracking again. I want them to, instead of abandoning it like they have here, please, like, give it another shot. Take what you built in World and expand upon it. Adapt it for, like, the criticisms that World had. Because, oh, right now, can you piss off, please? Thank you. Especially because I know I was talking about it just a little bit earlier before I got into like a long-ass tangent, but, yeah, I could not tell you a lot of where the monsters travel in this game, in comparison to World, where monster tracking was a thing, and you had to, like, because monster tracking not only... Right out, please. Because monster tracking didn't only... Or like... Hold on, I'm trying to get... Right the fuck out of here, dude. Monster tracking... Or the monsters not being on your map by default wasn't the defining factor on, or wasn't one of the like big defining factors on being able to tell what the monsters were in World. One of the other big factors that let you know was the actual tracks themselves, because you can learn where the monsters move so much faster in World because you're actually tracking them via prints. You're actually like getting told by the game where these monsters travel. You're not seeing them always travel these routes. You're not like, oh, I'm watching Sergio fly around and this is where he goes and this is where he ends up. No, in World it would have been, here's Sergio's tracks. Like, I can not see Sergios for like a majority of the hunt. Like, let's say I'm not even like, I don't even need to see Sergios in the hunt actually. I can be hunting a completely different monster. I could be hunting Doshiguma, and then a Sergios just happens to be in the locale, and while I'm hunting the Doshiguma, I find Sergios tracks. Already, even without hunting Sergios, I have a decent idea of where they're traveling, of where they go, where they end up. But in Wilds, I have to physically see where the monsters go in order to know what their traces are, or know what their tracks are. I need to know, like, for example, I know that he's going to his nest right now up and over here, because I've played this hunt like a dozen times. But I wouldn't know that unless they obviously did it manually themselves right now, and this is where the hunt always ended up. In comparison to a world where, like, I could stumble upon this place and find Sergio's tracks here, find like a Sergio's den, and be like, oh, this is where he's going to nest. If I, you know, let's say I'm trying to find him and like I've done a lot of damage to him and I don't have him on the map yet or whatever, like fully, I can be like, okay, I know where his nest is going to be. I can just go there if I think he's going to go there, or if I think that's where I'm going to find him. And that's like one of the reasons that I think monster tracking was so valuable, because it lets you understand the monster's paths without ever seeing the monster itself. Even if you're hunting a different monster, you got a lot of information about where the other monsters go based on the tracks that you would find. It's why in World, I can tell you exactly where Puke Puke, Kulu-Yaku, and Rathalos, and Anjanath, and Dragris, I can tell you pretty much every single monster where they would roam, where Legiana goes. Like, even when they're not marked on the map, I'm able to tell roughly where they're going to be and where they are. To the point that when I'm playing through World again with people who have never played the game before, and they're like, okay, can you just tell me where the monster's going to be so that I can get the cutscene? Like, well, not even then, I guess, but because the cutscenes are static. But if they're new and they're like, oh, I need to go and find Puke Puke, and I'm like, okay, follow me, I know exactly where they're going to be, and I go down the routes in the ancient forest that they appear in, that they wander through, and very, very often they'll be almost exactly where I know they're going to be, even if they're not marked on my map, even if I've not found any tracks. Just, I know where they are. I know how they move. I know where they pace. I know where their nests are. I know where they eat. I know all this extra information that is not necessarily required for the actual aspect of hunting the monster or fighting the monster. It's one of the coolest things about World that they unfortunately ended up abandoning in this game, and just like making it so that you see the monsters wherever they are on the map all the time, which I think is just kind of a little bit disappointing, because I don't need to learn the monsters' like movements anymore. Because World really amplified the idea that you were hunting the monster. You weren't fighting the monster. You're not going to them and then challenging a 1v1 and a health bar appears, and like that's the whole game. Like it kind of is in World, obviously I'm exaggerating, or like it kind of is in Wilds, and like obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit, you know, no health bar appears, but you know like the exact type of like what I mean with it, where it's like a duel 1v1. And that's like the whole game. Instead you were like, hunting means a lot more than just fighting. Hunting does, like if you're hunting something, that's very different from if you're killing or fighting something. Very, very different. So the whole hunting aspect was much more amplified in World, because you did more than fight them. You traced them, you found their tracks, you followed them, you went to their dens, you went to their local places, you know where they eat. You were hunting the monster, you were stalking them, you were preparing to find them, you know? You were actually hunting them. I think it's a very distinct difference between World and Wilds. Where World, in my opinion, it amplifies the idea of hunting monsters more than it does in any other Monster Hunter game. Because there's a lot more to it than picking up your weapon and smacking them until they die. There's just way more layers, and it's way more immersive, like considerably more immersive. I feel like even me describing it as it is should really tell you, like you should really get a good feel for like, wow, this is like much more immersive than Wilds does it, where you just find the monster and you attack them and you kill them. That's why I'm disappointed they didn't double down on the tracking aspect, because I feel the tracking added a lot to the game. A lot of people say as well that the tracking becomes pointless, or yeah, the whole tracking aspect becomes pointless once you get to a stage where I'm at, where you just know where the monsters are going to be, and you can just go there. It's like, well, why not just show me them? Well, A, the game does eventually do that, obviously, but that's the point. The point of learning and hunting the monster and getting better at it is to eventually not need the cues, is to eventually know where they're, like, it's a skillful aspect, it's a knowledge check. It's a satisfying knowledge check, you know? Like, knowing where Puke Puke is going to roam at all times, if I ever wanted to find one in the wild without having their icon on the map, is a very satisfying thing. And the only reason I got to that point in the first place is because of the systems that surrounded it, because of the whole tracking system, the tracks, the like pieces of shit on the ground, like all the blotches that you have to find, the footprints, you know. Like, people said that the tracking system becomes irrelevant once you get to the point, but the tracking system's done its job at that point. Like, the tracking system has succeeded in teaching you. That's why it's no longer relevant. And it's not a bad thing that it's no longer relevant. It doesn't have to stay relevant forever. It has to stay relevant until you know this information by yourself. And once you end up getting to a point where you know the information by yourself, the game then just gives you their location anyway. Because it's like, okay, you should have a pretty good idea where it is right now. We'll just tell you because your hunter will know where they are. For example, one of the things I would enjoy seeing them, or having seen them expanded upon, is getting rid of the... Because I will admit, them actually genuinely telling you where the monster is going to be, like flat, does actually kind of defeat the point of the system. To a unsatisfying extent. I don't think it's bad. I think it's fine, because again, after a certain point you gain that knowledge by yourself anyway. But I think one way that they could have fixed that and expanded upon that is they don't tell you where the monster is going to be by automatic, but they give you like proper, genuine clues that actually, instead of, like, let's say for example you're hunting, again, Puke Puke is an example. Instead of telling you exactly where the monster is going to be when your research level gets to a certain amount, instead it just shows you the general routes that that monster takes. That's not the best way to do it, which is why I want to see them expand on it. I'm sure that there's very smart people in the Monster Hunter team could have come up with something significant that made it so you were tactfully rewarded in-game with more information for maxing out the hunting log and actually like finding their tracks. I'm sure there's a way that they could have communicated that to you while also still allowing the actual knowledge you accrued over time to be relevant. Because the main way that it's relevant in the world right now is if you start a new playthrough, which is what I've done a couple times with a couple other friends, obviously. And that's where that knowledge really comes into shining and really feels the best. Like, that knowledge feels incredibly good when you start a new game, because you don't have any of the tells that the game would have given you. You don't get told exactly where they are at all times. So your knowledge is much more impactful. It's where it really shines how the game manages to teach you all of that information. So, I think that there's a way it could have been done, that they could have made it to where they could have really heightened that aspect, where like the satisfaction of actually learning a monster's roots and the directions they go, the paths they take, where they eat, where they drink, without just outright giving it to you after a certain point. I'm sure there is just something that they could do. Which is why, again, I think that they should have continued. I think they should have doubled down. I think that they should have gone back to the drawing board and thought, okay, how can we enhance this further? How can we really amplify the idea that you are hunting, learning about these monsters that is more than just fighting them? That your knowledge on a monster is determined not entirely by the fact that you know their moveset. That, like, saying, oh, I know... I know everything about Zenogre and Monster Hunter World means more than I know the moveset. It means I know where they go, I know where they end up, I know where they sleep, I know where they eat. Like... Damn. I also understand that, it's not an aspect that appeals to to a lot of people, actually. A lot of people are like, well, I just want to hunt a monster. And obviously if Capcom or the Monster Hunter team decided to go more my route, which that would become a lot less doable for those people who did want to just hunt the monster. I want to fight the monster, and that's it. I understand that they would lose out if Capcom followed my directions. That they would lose out on theirs. You know. So unfortunately, it's a system that kind of gives and takes, where it's like if you lean more into the hunting aspect, you lean away from the killing aspect or the fighting aspect. And unfortunately, I don't really think there's that much of a solution to that issue. Unfortunately, you can't really have your cake and eat it too. You can't have the people be satisfied that I want to hunt the monster now and immediately, right now. I want to just go there and fight them. You can't satisfy those people and the people who are like, I want to slow burn, learn the monster's tells, its paths, its eating habits. I want to learn that. I want to hunt the monster like an actual hunter and track them down. You can't satisfy those people because they're obviously at complete opposite ends of the spectrum. One is like, I want to take things slow and find the monster and have finding the monster be a significant part of the experience, the journey. And the other one, or the other end, which is, I want to fight the monster then and now, no matter what, and that's all I want to do. They're obviously at complete opposite ends of each other. It's quite literally impossible to satisfy both. Because, it's one or the other. You quite literally can't do both. Maybe there's a certain way you could do both. I'm not smart enough to come up with it. I don't think that, like, it would take me a long time. Maybe it'll come to me in, like, a shower thought at some point. But for the moment, I truthfully don't think there's very much of a way of satisfying both of those groups. Maybe something like, and this is also going at odds with something I was talking about before, but maybe the whole, like, bespoke arena system. Maybe that's one way to do it. It's like, oh, I want to fight the monster now, right now, and immediately. Or, well, actually, so you know what I mean, where it's like more like an arena, where the optional quest just put you in an arena with the monster. And like, you know where they are, obviously, because it's a small arena, and you fight them that way. So then those people are satisfied. But then they probably want the fights to happen in the actual maps. They want to traverse the maps. They want to collect resources, stuff like that. So, I mean, you could maybe do it in the sense of optional quests. Oh, actually, my brain is burning right now. The cogs are turning, actually.
More plentiful flora brings with it more methods for recovery.
Give it like another 10 seconds, and I think I actually have something. I do. I have something. I actually have something for this. I've managed to conjure up a pretty decent idea, actually. To satisfy both the people who want to track the monster, manually learn their paths, and do all the hunting aspect, and leaning into them, or like satisfying that group, and the people who just want to fight the monster, and only fight the monster, and none of the tracking business. And I think I know of a way to actually genuinely satisfy both in the same game. What you could do, you could have a system in place, kind of like investigations, where the tracking aspect has already been done by another set of hunters. So, also reinforcing the idea that you're not just a lone hunter killing everything and, you know, extincting the entire universe, or the entire locale. Like, like broadening broadening the idea that you're more than just a single hunter, that there's an entire guild doing it, and they've done the tracking. So it's like, oh, we know exactly where this monster is because we've been tracking it for the past, you know, past couple hours, past week or whatever. We've been tracking it for a long time. Here's the actual, you know, we know exactly where they are. Here they are. Go and fight them. Have that in an optional quest, being like, every optional quest for a monster just leads straight to them. You get told exactly where they are, and that's how you go to them. You go to them, you fight them, you're done. Satisfies that group, you know, who just want to fight the monster and nothing more. And then of course, if you're doing it by yourself, you know, you're going out into the wild to hunt, then you have the tracking system. You're the one who's doing the job of the tracking instead of the other people who are in the guild. So, I think that would be a pretty decent start, a pretty good baseline for how to actually manage to satisfy both ends of the spectrum, where there are people who, you know,
Should we take a break?
want to just fight the monster, and there are people who want to track the monster. And it's a solution that makes sense as well. Like going, oh, you know, here's all this information on this monster we've been gathering for the past week. We know where they're going to be around about this time, so go and hunt them then. That just makes sense.
Before we know it.
Using the information gained from the other hunters, they're literally plopping it down as like a job to be done, where it's like, hey, there's these there's this monsters. Please go and hunt them at this, or please go and hunt them at this point. Anyone who can take the job, and that would be you. Make it like effectively a bounty board, where other hunters who've done the tracking job put out all the information to another hunter that you then take the killing job for, you know? And then if you really want to do it all yourself, you can just go into the wild, go into the maps like I'm doing right now, go gather tracks. You know, you don't get told where the monsters are because you don't have enough information on this specific one you're hunting yet. Like, you don't know this monster's patterns just yet. You don't know exactly, like, where this monster's going to go. Maybe you'll have, like, a pretty good idea with, like, especially with the information you get, but then it lets those people be satisfied in actually tracking down the monster themselves. If you don't give them the actual location of the monster just outright anymore. Just remove that from world entirely. Remove, like, the whole aspect of, like, eventually the monster is on your map 24/7. Like it is in this game. Just remove it from world entirely, and have it so that you do have to do tracking to actually find the monster. You have to find the tracks and like get told where they are. Maybe you get better at it over time, but don't give you the ultimate version of it, which is just telling you where they are. You know, give you some hand, give you like
Wind's gasp. I wonder if the name was inspired
But,
by the sound of wind passing through.
what are they called? The scout flies? Yeah, like instead of just give you like scout flies benefits, they'll track it a little bit better. They'll bring you to the next track, etc. Basically, just everything up to all the tracking in the world, except the final reward of
Try to avoid any
having a full tracking log. You know, which is just them telling you where it is. Everything but that.
adaptable.
And I think a system like that might actually genuinely satisfy both ends of the spectrum. Those people who just want to hunt the monster outright, and those who want to actually hunt the monster, you know, from the beginning with all the tracking aspects, where you go and hunt a new one that someone else hasn't tracked yet, that another hunter hasn't done the work for. I think for a idea that I've come up with over the span of like a minute or so thinking about it initially, I think it's actually a pretty decent solution to what would have otherwise been a very impossible problem of satisfying both ends of the spectrum. And then, it can replace investigations as well. Just merge investigations into it. Like, quite literally, you could just do that. You could just merge that mechanic with investigations, being told where the monster is in a quest, because some other hunters went and did all the tracking for you. Fundamentally, it's a system that is very similar to investigations, and you can just further enhance investigation. It doesn't really take anything away from it. You can just further enhance investigations with that aspect. I've never actually gone out this far. Can you go anywhere? Or does you just get like an invisible wall? Yeah, you just get hit by an invisible wall. That's so sad. I would love to, I love like dune maps like this. I wish that I could explore more of this dune. Which is why I think it'd be so cool if in... This is moving into a completely different discussion.
Mind if I hop on?
I'm also gonna check my Discord because I heard it bleep. Yeah, this is moving into a completely different discussion now, but I hope for... Or one of the things I would want to see in the Wilds expansion, which I don't think that they're going to do, but I would really love if they did, is if they expanded the existing maps. Well, actually, this gives me a good example, or a good time to show it off, what I'm talking about, but... I think an expansion that actually expands on the base game would be great, instead of just adding to the base game, like they've always done. Like, instead of adding a completely new locale, or a new locale, instead you can still add a new locale, you can do that just fine, just add another, another one to the existing couple that are in the base game. But what if you also expanded the world map on all the other locales as well? You gave them new areas, new regions, new parts of them that more monsters could inhabit and travel between. One of the many examples I have for this in Wilds, because I've just thought about this like for forever, is in the Windward Plains over here, where
I think these might be tracks.
there's a ravine here, or a valley, you can see it, that separates this area from that area over there. Over in that direction. What if, in the DLC, this area gets filled in? Like, rocks fall down, maybe stuff happens, and, bones and gubbins completely covers up this area, or paths open. Maybe the guild, because the guild can create structures, they can just create bridges. On stars. But, like, what if instead in the expansion, they expanded it so that you can go over into this area over here. And this area becomes a little bit flatter, a little bit more structured, so that it's just an expansion on the already existing area. And then you can link up this area over here with it, so that it becomes much broader of a map. It becomes more interesting. There's more areas to it. There's more ways for Doshiguma and Raidou to travel through, and, overall just expanding the original map considerably. That's something I would really love to see in the expansion. Instead of just bringing in a completely new locale and leaving it at that, instead you add more areas to the existing locales. That would be, like, such a genuinely cool thing to do. Also, here's another really cool thing in this game, by the way. is like other NPCs.
Hey, for now.
Something you don't really get to see a lot of.
Enough.
If you don't actually... This is why it's so sad that Monster Hunter,
Long way.
This is why it's actually really sad that Wilds,
There are a lot of monsters there.
focuses really hard, or most Monster Hunter games focus really hard on the, like, posting a quest, going on a quest, ending the quest, and then you're back to the hub. Like, that aspect of, like, that gameplay loop. It's a bit disappointing that the game heavily ends up relying on that in the end game. Because there's this shit here, which is so cool, where you can wander around the map and find people just living naturally. This is one of the coolest aspects that they revealed before the game came out that I thought was so damn cool, is the fact that you don't necessarily need to just do the old, what would it be called? The old flow of go on a quest, kill the monster, exit the quest, and like, you actually get to live in the world and see where it goes, like what people are doing in it, and
Let's take a quick break.
it's such a neat aspect. Also, by the way, another really cool thing is if that happens and like NPCs actually wander in or into the main area here, and you're actually fighting another monster, if you actually run up to them with your hunter will actually audibly tell them, hey, you need to get out of here. I'm hunting a big-ass monster that's really angry right now. You're gonna get, you know, gored if you stay here for too long, so I'm, like, warning you. You have to leave for your own safety. It's such a cool aspect that, like, I've only seen once in, like, the entirety of my gameplay, because you don't really get to do that in this game. It adds so much life to this game. It adds so much, like, breadth to the world, so much like nuance. Makes the world feel like so much more lived in, so much more real. They've really just realized the world in this game so damn well. You think it'd be nice as well because despite Regius being so prominent in the Windward, he has no actual nest or home like Laggy and Mizu do. They could actually give Regius an actual nest. You're right, they actually could. That's another like wonderful aspect of the idea of them just expanding the maps themselves in the expansion is it offers up new nests and in locations for monsters to go to and rest and like expands their territory.
Make sure to catch
Also,
anything a monster leaves behind.
Rathian. Holy shit. Is this not rare? I feel like this is very rare to see a Rathian here. I feel like this is one of the more rarer locations that a monster can be in. See, like, I'm gonna say it again, but moving back onto what I was talking about on monster tracking, this is an aspect that would get incredibly, like, incredibly, like, yeah, like, this is a good example of how, like, adding a tracking system where you actually have to hunt the monster and figure out where they are would then be exaggerated and amplified even further. Because, like, I didn't know Rathian could, like, well, I knew Rathian could be here, but it was very rare. Exceptionally rare. The issue is uploading those VODs is not going to help, actually, because some of them I'm going to have to do clips for and videos. Anyway, earlier on, Stormy, I was talking about how I actually really enjoyed tracking in Monster Hunter World and how much it amplified the idea that you were actually hunting a monster instead of just fighting them like it's a one-on-one boss fight all the time. Kind of like how it is in Wilds and like every other Monster Hunter game. It added to the aspect of like tracking and learning the monster's habitats, learning the monster's habits and learning the monster's routes. It's where it eats, where it sleeps, where it goes to, where it's hungry. You know, it's like it really enforces the hunting aspect and like grounds you a lot better in the worlds. I feel like, I mean, I say that most of the time when people talk about the mechanic, they're like, oh, it's so immersive and it's so like, I think it adds so much to gameplay. I think it adds so much to the idea that you're hunting the monster. it really amplifies the hunting aspect and not just the slaying aspect, which other Monster Hunter games really focus on.
Almost there.
It makes you feel like an actual proper hunter when you're learning the monster's routes.
Over here, Bob. I'm your target.
What was really grounded in gameplay immersion, it really put your ego at rock bottom.
Ready for ya.
True, when they actually beat your ass. But like, playing through World again, it's obscenely satisfying
Better collect this trap.
when you don't have all the information the game gives you, obviously. You know, where it's like, it doesn't give you the exact location of where the monster is, or it doesn't tell you, like, or doesn't give you that information. It's really nice when you start a new playthrough in World, and you can tell exactly where the monster is going to be based on your knowledge of the monster, you know? The example I used earlier was I can tell you exactly where Puke Puke is going to be without ever having actually used any of their, or found any of their tracks, because I actually know where that monster is going. Like, I actually know that, understand that monster as if it's a real creature that I'm hunting. I know exactly where it's going to be. It adds so much, and it makes you feel so good. It's so satisfying. That's why I'm disappointed they didn't double down on it in this game. Makes the game way better? It makes the game play very different. I'm not necessarily sure I would say better, but it plays different, and it feels very satisfying to do. It's a very enjoyable aspect that I really loved. And I said, like, I understand that doesn't apply to everyone. I know a lot of people, because there's obviously the crowd of Monster Hunter players who they're like, I just want to hunt the monster. Like, give me an arena, give me where they are, and I will fight them right now. And that's what I want to do. Hunt, 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 hunt. I want to go from kill to kill to kill. Like, I don't want to deal with this tracking them nonsense. I want to fight the monster. So, like, there is a crowd that's like that, which are valid. That's completely fine to be like that. I mean,
So, where to next? Being able to fulfill your objective.
you know, I would say that, like, eventually when you learn how to track the monster, you become like that anyway. You can get back to that aspect where you just start, like, because if you know where the monster is going to be, you don't need the location. You don't need them on the map. You can just go there. It's a pretty large crowd. It's a pretty large crowd, and I think it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate large crowd because it really limits Monster Hunter so much. It limits what they can do. It really it truncates down so many aspects of the game. It limits them entirely on, like, how they can adapt and like strengthen the game loop. Like, I'd much rather they go down the hunting route, like the tracking route from World, than the Gogs Mazios route of just, like, varying the game to completely altering the core formula. In my opinion, tracking was a... Tracking... What would it be called? It was an enhancement to the core formula. Tracking was genuinely an enhancement, as opposed to Gogs Mazios Phase 3, which is a replacement for the core formula. Gogs Mazios Phase 3 completely replaces the entire core formula of Monster Hunter, as opposed to tracking, which enhances the core formula. It revolves around the idea of hunting the monster. Eventually, you get to the same gameplay where you just hunt the monster if it's a 1v1 boss fight. You eventually get there, and tracking rolls around that. Tracking encompasses that. It enhances the existing formula, which is, like, what I want to see them do more. I want to see them do more things like that. But I was running it over in my head. Like, is there a genuine possible way to satisfy both ends of the spectrum? Can you satisfy the people who just want to go into the monster immediately and fight them like it's a boss fight? And can you satisfy the people who want to do all the hunter tracking, all the, you know, gathering tracks, gathering footprints, sniffing, you know, shit? Can you satisfy both groups at the same time? And initially I said no. It's because obviously the two are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. One wants the slow burn, tracking, hunting gameplay, and one wants the boss fight gameplay, which is immediately, you're in their face and you're fighting them. They're quite literally at opposite ends of the spectrum. But after like a little bit on thinking about it, I managed to come up with the idea, which I'm actually very interested and very keen on, to actually genuinely satisfy both crowds in the same game. Which is, imagine it. So, for the people who want to do the game like it's just boss fights, like they just want to hunt the monster and that's it, or so they just want to slay the monster and that's it, just fight it. What if there was a system that was an enhancement to investigations where you get told exactly where the monster is because another hunting group did all the tracking for you? Because that just makes sense, that there's multiple hunters, they're doing different levels of tracking. And so they're like, oh, I've tracked this monster, I know where it's roughly going to be around this time. Here's effectively a bounty for it, being like, can someone go and kill this monster? Like, if you want to go and hunt it, this is where it's going to be. I've done the tracking for you. You get told where it is. It's like investigations. But instead, if you want to be the one doing the tracking and doing it all from ground zero, starting from nothing, yeah, field hunter versus bounty hunter, where you get because the hunters, there's obviously they have more people than just hunters. There are people who are tracking as well, and that's their main thing. They go around gathering information, figuring out where the monster is going to be. They just hand off that info to you, and then you go and hunt the monster. It's marked on your map because all the tracking is done for you.
I'll just hop off for now.
And you can effectively add that onto investigations. It's just rebranding investigations, certainly, or in a certain way. But for the people who want to do all the tracking by themselves, start from nothing, find the finger or find the footprints, find the tracks, find all the bodily fluids and stuff like that by themselves, you just go into the world and start tracking. Because you don't know what's there. That hasn't been done yet. That's up to you. Effectively, like it is in World, you get to satisfy both ends of the crowd. With the people who want to do the tracking themselves and gather the quest, or gather all the materials and the sniffing feet and stuff like that, you satisfy that group. And you also satisfy the people who just want to hunt the monster because there's a system for both. One of them is just how the game works normally, and it's just effectively a rebranded investigations. That's with a more interesting context, which benefits that crowd. And then you have the people who like the World, who actually get to go out and just track the monsters themselves in the locales. You have to do the work before you kill them. And I think that actually genuinely satisfies both sides, and really enhances Monster Hunter, not only from a gameplay perspective, but from the world building aspect as well, because the idea that you're not the solo hunter. You're not just one hunter doing one thing. Because that's how it feels even in this game where there's multiple hunting groups. For the most part, it's just you doing all the bulk of the hunting, because obviously you're just playing by yourself, makes sense. But then you add it onto the context. It gives so much context. Where you no longer feel like you're a solo hunter doing all of this work by yourself. Instead, there's there's hundreds of different hunting groups who are doing different levels of tracking, getting different levels of information, and have different responsibilities than you, are doing different things, and they're delegating the work off to you to go and hunt it if you really want to. It's literally just pinning it on a bounty board. Here's this monster. This is where they're going to be at roughly this time. Go and hunt them. I have to do something else at that time. It really adds to the world. It really adds to the idea that you're not the only hunter. It really exaggerates the feeling this is just a big profession full of thousands of people, dozens of thousands, tens of thousands of people. And if you're the person who enjoyed Monster Hunter World, you can go the opposite route. Just go into the wild like I'm doing right now. Find tracks, find, traces of monsters wandering about, and then that's how you find your monsters. You just go and do that. Maybe you get different rewards from doing either. maybe you get specific rewards from tracking monsters this way. I mean, there is a certain, if you go down that route, then either crowd is going to be forced to do the one that they don't want. So maybe the rewards should be kept the same. But if you really wanted to do something like that, which they probably would, is change the rewards that you get based on what route you take. And the easiest way to do that is just make it so that you pick up rewards from tracking. Like, instead of, brushing the ground, ooh, feet, it's all footprints, they're going this way. Instead, it's like, oh, here's a dropped scale. A dropped, like, right next to the feet, there's like, oh, they dropped a bit of scale here. Ooh, this is what they were eating. And you get materials from that. You get specific materials from the tracking portions. So, not only, and I guess if you're doing the actual dedicated quest, you get more rewards for the actual monster, like the actual monster hunting carving parts. That's what, if you want investigations, that's how you would get that. Because then it also like, if you get more parts from them than the tracking aspect, then that also feeds into the loop of, I just want to get this piece of equipment right now, so you go and do that to get more, to get the equipment. Be cool to find the investigations that are out of your skill bracket or something that you don't like hunting, and a bounty, get a small portion of the rewards. I mean, if you really wanted to go deep into this idea, really deep, you could make it a player system. Now, I don't think that they should do it globally. I don't think it'd be very fun if you did all the tracking work and then you posted it without hunting the monster yourself. I don't think people would do that. That's a system that people wouldn't engage with. The whole reason you're tracking the monster is so that you can go hunt them. So making an entirely player-driven aspect of like, oh, I tracked this monster, here, go and fight them. Making it so that they're giving up a hunt themselves so they can give it to someone else, I don't think that would be smart. I think that wouldn't work. That would fall on deaf ears, I think. That wouldn't work very well. Which is why I say make it a lore thing. Make it a context in universe that there's other hunter NPC guilds supposedly wandering around gathering tracks for monsters that you haven't seen or haven't been hunting, and they just post them up on the bounty board when they've gathered enough information. You take that, go hunt them, and it's just like classic Monster Hunter. And where the guilds work as like a tracker, hunter, handler, smithy, yeah, there's different roles. So like even then you can just assign that gameplay aspect to a member of the guild that was like, oh, we're the dedicated tracker. Because then, like, quests come from different people anyway, in this game, or in all the Monster Hunter games. They come from different users. You can just list who it was from, like, oh, hunter, but I'm busy. I'm busy, I'm hunting a different monster this time, where I'm needed somewhere else. Or, like, oh, I'm a dedicated tracker. Here's, like, a hunt that I found. I think that'd be a really cool way to tie it all in together. It would genuinely be letting them, eat their cake and have it too. They would get the best of both worlds for both sides of the coin, and not only that, it would further enhance Monster Hunter gameplay-wise and context-wise, premise-wise, significantly more than it already is. It would be like, I don't know. It's like taking a chocolate sponge and icing and finally merging them together properly. And like fully realizing a lot of the core concept of Monster Hunter in such a satisfying way. Obviously, like my idea isn't all-encompassing, it isn't perfect. There's a lot of ways, but which is why, the smart heads at Capcom themselves could go and just do it themselves, and like they could flesh that out. I'm sure the people at Capcom are way smarter than me on how they would have this done and how it would work. But as a basic general concept, I feel like this would like satisfy both people very well. Because they're probably not going to bring tracking back and make it global, like World was, where it's like a global mechanic that you have to interact with. probably not. They're probably not going to do that again because clearly they were scared off. They went over to Wilds and they were like, okay, we're getting rid of this because a lot of people didn't like it, so we're just going to go back to the core Monster Hunter, which everyone likes. So, like, the group that did like it kind of get, like, shafted a bit. You know, obviously you're still getting a phenomenal Monster Hunter game, but you're not getting the expansion on a aspect that they really enjoyed. Essentially, Frontier feels like you're a bounty hunter, and Outlanders looks like it'll be completely exploration and early area development. You're totally right. Yeah, I've been yapping away in this stream. I've been like mega yapping. Probably this has been one of the most yap heavy Monster Hunter streams ever. Those two games are like opposites, but they could literally work in the same game. I think they could. Initially, I thought that they couldn't. I was like, well, it's... You know, you can't satisfy both. It's like a switch that flicks on, or it's like two switches, and you flick one on, the other comes off. That's what I thought it was originally. I was like, well, you can't satisfy the people who just want to hunt the monsters, and the people who want to track the monsters. You can't satisfy them both at the same time. It's impossible. But it actually is more than possible, I think. From like the rough idea that I managed to conjure, think about. I think it is possible to actually genuinely satisfy both ends of the spectrum and create a much more dense Monster Hunter game as a result. A much riskier, much bolder game that truly brings in like so many strong aspects of the previous games and like merges them all into one, satisfying like a significantly higher crowd. But I mean, they don't need to do any of that. They can just keep making Monster Hunter games like normal because Monster Hunter Worlds is like Monster Hunter Wild is like one of the best-selling Capcom games ever. Clearly, the base formula works just fine. So they probably won't take those routes. Which is unfortunate, because even earlier in the stream, I was talking about how I want them to be bolder. I don't want them to just settle for making, like, because they've gotten hunts down to a point that they're pretty much perfect. They can make some 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 hunts, and they've gotten really consistent in making those. Really consistent. I think now it's time to start pushing the envelope more. Start doing bolder things, start doing crazier things, start, like, going out there. And the example I used was the Achtal mecha monster, the one that, like, the grasshopper, or the praying mantis that has its own mech. Obviously, I used that as the example, and I've talked about it with you as well, where it can just spawn in onto a map. Like, it can just walk in with its nest, with its giant mech. It comes in like a normal monster would roam into the area, gets out of its mech, roams around the map where the mech can't fit. You fight it for a whole bunch, goes back to the mech, you fight the mech, you get it out, you kill it. Like, instead of what they would do, which is what they're going to do if that monster ever comes back, is give it its own bespoke arena like a la Tryon. Which is what they'll do. I want them to do bolder things. Be bigger. Think, like, more intricate. That's the type of thing that I want them to do more. Is, instead of settling for great, be phenomenal. Like, sure, you guys are really good at making great. In fact, you're probably one of the best people at making great, but you can do more, I think. You can do a lot more. I further enhanced that idea, by the way, earlier, because I came up with another banger, I think, which is, in order to stop something like Achtal from becoming a scripted fight, which always appears in, let's say, the Windward Plains, because, you know, it's the dune is the biggest place it can bring its mech in. The mech would be too big to fit in other places like the Ayrshire Cliffs. What if Achtal instead to further reinforce that it's a species, has different mechs depending on the region. So it comes in, like in the Oil Well Basin, it's much more of a flat lizard mech. And then on the Ishar Cliffs, it's a much more boxy, like taller mech, because that area is really tall, but kind of cramped. And no, Ruins of Wyveria, maybe it can like... I would know about that because it's a very spiral region. But you kind of see the vision, where Actal becomes this very variable, very nuanced monster that like the core is still the same. You're still fighting the praying mantis the same every time, but the second half of the fight, where you go and fight it in the mech, changes depending on the locale that you find it in. Now, granted, again, I mentioned this, that is a heavy undertaking. That is a colossal amount of effort for one monster. Something that I don't think they would do. But you can apply this aspect to other monsters as well. Like, instead of when they bring Alatreon back again at some point, instead of putting him into his bespoke arena like he was in World, where you fight him there and only there, never anywhere else, instead make him a normal monster that can appear in any locale, just like an inland monster, and tie in his element aspect. Make it so whatever element he starts in is the element of the region that he's in. Ice in the Ishar Cliffs, fire in the volcano region, or fire in the desert region, like maybe water in the Scarlet Forest region. You know, tie in that. Make his element changing aspect a core part of his design and a core part of how he appears. Because then you can effectively make him an invasion monster. That's like, again, that's the type of shit I want to see them do. Cooler, more bolder ideas instead of just settling for putting them in a bespoke arena. Tie them into the ecosystem. Genuinely tie them into the rest of the game so that it enhances the whole ecological, you know, these are living creatures, these are living areas, these are, you know, this is nature. Instead of just like cordoning off all these hunts and monsters, actually tie them in to the world properly. Bring them into the ecological, or just the general ecology. That's what I want to see them do more. Generally, just take the core of Monster Hunter and enhance it. Code it and, like, amplify it. There's a lot that they could do. There is a lot, and it's funny because I really think there's a lot that they could do to really enhance the core of Monster Hunter even further. Like, you know, when you think about like, oh, well, you know, they've got it down pretty on par right now, there's not really much that they can do. But like, I think that's not true. I think that they can do a lot more. Not that I'm not satisfied with what they do. I'm more than satisfied with what they do. These games are fucking phenomenal. I'm more than happy. But they could take things so much further without ruining the core, without missing the core, without, you know, disrupting the natural flow of Monster Hunter. Everything new that they keep trying, like wire bugs and like switch skills and like everything new that they truly are trying to put in, usually add on or alter the core of Monster Hunter in a certain way that people never end up liking. Like wyvern riding, for example. That's another aspect which changed the core. It wasn't added onto the core, it wasn't enhancing the existing game. It was something completely new that changed an existing aspect. And that's what they keep trying, and it's what usually ends up failing. When instead, I think that they should look to things that enhance the current core of Monster Hunter, which they're also still really good at doing, in this game with the wound system and the focus mode. It enhances the core. It doesn't replace an existing aspect, it further enhances the core. It doesn't alter what makes Monster Hunter Monster Hunter. That's the type of stuff that they should be trying more. Oh, let's go see what's up here. Yeah, they seem really keen on putting things in bespoke arenas and bespoke quests. Like, you can't find any of the 10 stars naturally in the ecosystem. You can't find any of the Arc-Tempered in the ecosystem. They're their own bespoke quests with bespoke, like, map conditions. Which is unfortunate. I think that every one of these monsters, like the 10 stars, the Arc-Tempered, Zoshia, Jindahed, they should all naturally appear in the world itself. You should be able to not set up a specific quest and just wander around, and you eventually will stumble into them. They will eventually appear by themselves. I think that should be an aspect. That should be something that should happen. I think Zoshia should be a genuine monster that appears in the ruins of Wyveria that you can go to physically from the camp, and not just be a monster that you have to select a quest for, and nothing else. No other way to fight them. I think this should be a genuine monster you can just walk into. Same with whatever else they choose to add. I think everything in the game, everything in Wilds, should be huntable without requiring a quest being posted. You shoot your pants with 10-star Nuja pulled up when you were hunting in a Jerrican? Like, exactly! Wouldn't that be fucking terrifying? I just think that they should all be... like... None of the monsters, in my opinion, except for maybe a few exceptions, should be required to post a quest for. You should be able to bump into them naturally. I say it's some exceptions because there is stuff like Safi Jiva, which, if they ever bring back siege quests, they would most certainly have to put that in its own arena, with its own dedicated, you know, flow and system to it. So Gog and Zoshia in this game? I think even Zoshia and Gog should be a part of the game naturally. I think that they should be appearable without quest posting. Zoshia especially has no reason to be exclusive to a quest. So does Jin. Jin and Zoshia, both of them have no reason whatsoever to be exclusive to a quest. Or exclusive to a... like their own arena that you can't access without posting the quest. Those areas should be in the world map, and those monsters should appear in those areas.
Quick, you can use that as slinger ammo.
Gog is a bit of a rougher. Gog is a bit of a rougher take, but I still think even then you could do Gog just fine as a quest that that doesn't require an actual quest being posted, or a hunt that doesn't require a quest. Like, he can just appear, attach his arena that he starts in to the oil well basin, like you would any other area, and maybe make it so. Well, I mean, already it's a solution. Actually, it's an issue that fixes itself, because the final area in GOG's quest line, the one where you go up top above the rest of the Oil Well Basin, doesn't even activate until he starts blowing the place up. Like like the area that your secret goes up, the small pipe that ends up turning around because of the destruction happening. That is literally a self-fixing issue, where if you really make it so people don't want to, or if you want it so people can't access the top area of Gog Damazios Phase 3 from the world map, just make it so that you know, the pipe also only turns around and gives access to that area once you're done with Phase 2 of GOG. Fuck, where's the grab? I think it's a self-fixing issue, even for GOG, actually.
Hey! Get out of there!
Damn, thought I could outrun it. So yeah, even GOG. I think
Are you alright?
right now in Wilds, there's no monster in this game that could not appear without, or there's no monster in this game right now that I don't think couldn't appear without the require of a quest. They could all appear just fine without a quest.
On my way there.
Bounce it.
And I think that should be the case. I think Zoshia is weird because of the story implications. They're meant to be extremely rare. I think all of that kind of flies out of the window anyway, when the fact is that they appear anyway. Like, already we're flubbing the numbers a little bit because, you know, Elder Dragons are supposed to be incredibly uncommon. So the implication is obviously that, you know, this Elder Dragon is only appearing once every, like, 2 or 3 months or so, but you're just, you know, hunting them back to back to back for this. You're skipping time. That's the implication. But Wilds has already kind of flubbed that anyway. And so did World. World with the Guiding Lands. Elder Dragons can appear back to back to back in the Guiding Lands. Just fine. And Worlds already flubs it because it tells you that Zoshia has appeared. It tells you that the Jindahad has appeared. Go and hunt them. It implies that it's present. Or it implies that it's happening in the present. Which means they do appear very commonly in... It's obviously not in lore. Lore is different from gameplay. It's a very gameplay-specific time frame. Because, you know, it doesn't make sense. You know, you fought Zoshia, now wait 2 months. You know? It's obviously like, oh, Zoshia appeared, you know, he'll probably appear again in another hour for gameplay purposes. So their actual rarity, quote unquote, their rarity doesn't matter. You can easily just say that they're supposed to be extremely rare, and you can just, you know, fuck, I was just dodging. You know, you can just say in lore they only appear so often, but in gameplay you can just have them appear however often you want. Even if it happens naturally without a quest. Because ultimately it doesn't really matter. You can imply their rarity quite well through how often they appear. Because Zoshia only really, like, if you don't actually skip time at all, Zoshia tends to only appear once every 10, 20 quests, which is pretty rare. That's like 3 hours of gameplay. Or 3 to 4 hours of, or that's like 2 to 3 hours of gameplay. The rarity is felt more than actually, like, shown. That's what I mean. You don't necessarily need to flub the rarity. You don't need to go, oh, well, this doesn't make sense because, you know, they're supposedly very rare, so it only makes sense that they're a quest only, so that you're skipping time, fundamentally. It's like, no, you can just make them appear only once every 3 hours or so, like Zoshia already does. And then the rarity is felt more than seen. Like, I'm sure if, like, maybe it would feel a little bit more ridiculous with Alatran. Like, Alatran appears and like, oh my god, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, Alatran being here. And then he appears like 3 hours or 4 hours again later in a new region. Like, sure, it might feel a little like, oh, well, isn't this supposed to be obscenely rare? But like, for the sake of gameplay, and only gameplay, you could logically just have it like that, just fine. Make it so Alatran only appears every 4 hours or so. You wish they would have done the rarity thing and made Shia more like Call than a Safi raid boss, as a raid boss. I kind of agree, but that's also mainly because I want to see Siege come back, or Siege monsters come back in general, and not necessarily because I want Zoshia to be one. Yeah, it's more that I want Sieges to come back, and less that I want any of the existing monsters to be Sieges. Like Jin the Head would have worked really well as a Siege monster, because obviously he has the enmity aspect and the multi-phase aspect that Safi Jiva also had, and Kultural also had. Very clearly, if they were still doing siege quests, Jin the Head would be a siege quest. Yeah, I do want them to bring back siege quests. I think that'd be really fun. I think, if anything, Zoshia doesn't necessarily need to be a siege quest, because it is implied and is kind of shown in the gameplay that we were strong enough to beat Zoshia by ourselves. Like, that is just kind of fact of what happened. And it makes sense because Zoshia is like the newly birthed embodiment of several genetic monsters, which happen to be Fatalis. They're obscenely strong, of course, but they're like Xenojiva in that they're not necessarily anywhere close to the proper designated power they're supposed to be. Or that they were going to be. If they're going to do a siege quest for Zoshia, it will probably be Master Rank. And it will be the Master Rank version of Zoshia. The one that's, like, allowed to brew for an extended period of time. I don't get why I'm getting hit by that. Must be a hitbox thing, or like I'm blocking the wrong angle. Yeah, I'd imagine we probably will get a thing like Zoshia to Safi Jiva. We're probably going to get a stronger version of Zoshia in the DLC. Very similar to Safi Jiva. And I think, if anything, it would then be disappointing to not do... Dude. I think it would then be disappointing to not do some sort of siege quest for that. I definitely want them to bring back siege quests. Something that I'm really not sure they're going to do. I'm like very skeptical. I think it's actually more like it's very unlikely that we'll get siege quests back. Unfortunately. But I can hope. I think siege quests were also a really good way of increasing the threat level of a certain monster.
I think you can use that as slinger ammo.
Because if they want to do quests, if they want to make monsters which are like, yeah, you would not be beating this solo, you'd be doing an entire team to beat this monster. If they want to do monsters like that, they're gonna have to do something like siege quests again. Or they could just flub it and just be like, oh well, yeah, but you can fight them solo, like Fatalis. Fuck, come on.
We blinded it.
Because like, I mean, supposedly we fought, you know, Fatalis solo, or we could have. I'd imagine it's implied that that was a 4-squad, but we needed, what was it, 16 hunters going round the clock in order to fight Tafujiba.
And complete. Rewards come to me.
Yeah, the way Safi's done does it so well, especially considering just the whole aspect of like your hunter groups rotating in and out, whittling it down over time. This was a monster that was larger than any single hunter. In terms of scale, not in terms of like actual size, in terms of like scale of the fight. Yeah, I want them to do siege quests again. Nearly HR2 or 520.
Here we go. Commencing quest now. Are you in there?
What was the... I saw the crit icon there. It was like a... It's a red, like, star above your damage number. There was a blue one for a second. I'm also getting a very occasional white damage number, or like a small damage number next to my... It's kind of like the Zoshia Pulse from their weapon. I don't know what that's from. You found a Wordle from Monster Hunter? Huge. Yeah, what is this small damage number I keep getting? 18. I got 18 there. Like, what is giving me bonus damage that I didn't have previously? Is it Par Breaker? No. Maybe? I have no idea what that damage, or no idea what the damage number is then.
And complete. Rewards come to me.
Today's monster was evil. A slight chance that I got it. Or that I would get it. Where is it then?